Welcome to the Jehovih Chronicles with your host, Cosmon Cal.
As to the wind, the story was told. The drugs came after dark, stubborn bold. The line was marked in the blood of wars. It's all in the first book of the first law. As to the end, the story was told. The drugs came after dark, stubborn bold. The line was marked in the blood of wars. It's all in the first book of the first law. Formed from the soil when the veil was scraped. Jehovih breathed cold into the cellular shape. Man stood upright, his first thoughts escaped. A soul in the body, the prison was draped. Angel stepped down, bore bone and flesh. Walked with the mortal, kept knowledge the quest. Our hens born bright from a heavenly mesh. Truth in their voice, no need to guess. The error occurred when the order reversed. Brother killed brother, now the blessings cursed. Cain left stains in the script we rehearsed. A mark ain't skin, it's the mind dispersed. Now war's inside, every man collides. Spirit versus a hunger, which one you ride? I speak from the gap where the gods reside. Let the rhyme decide which side survives. I saw ahead, the story was told. The drugs came after dark, stubborn bold. The line was marked in the blood of wars. It's all in the first book of the first book. I saw ahead, the story was told. The drugs came after dark, stubborn bold. The line was marked in the blood of wars. It's all in the first book of the first law. Hands like coded, stories untold, not color of skin, it's wisdom and gold. Drugs built dents from the mineral mold, weight of the world in the grip they hold. Then came the yaks in the woven breed, down in surface yet born to lead. Chains on the body, lie in the seed. Every slave rolled hit royal deeds. The Lord said, dance, that's vibrance, trance. Movement align you with circumstance. Sound was the bridge, rhythm the chance. Heaven respond when the feet advance. Some drugs caught fire, remember the name. Faith ignited a dormant flame. Same clay body, different name. What you worship, decide your lane. To the end, the story was told. The drugs came after dark, stubborn bold. The line was marked in the blood of wars. It's all in the first book of the first law. The story was told. The drugs came after dark, stubborn bold. The line was marked in the blood of wars. It's all in the first book of the first law. Commandments fell like cosmic law. Don't spill blood, see the spirit raw. Every life echoes the Father's draw. Kill one piece and you fracture all. Cities rose in the sacred time. Walls for the body, steps for the mind. Ladders for souls trying to climb divine. Structure outside, match the inner spine. When angels withdrew, the test took form. Who stays righteous when the world ain't warm? Drugs move violent, hunger transform. Physical wars from a spiritual storm. Our horns emerge with the crimson thread. Strong and frame, but spirit-led. God was holy, the Lord has said. But wisdom leaks when pride is fed. I saw the wind, the story was told. All the drugs came after dark, stubborn, cold. The line was marked in the blood of wars. It's all in the first book of the first law. I saw the wind, the story was told. All the drugs came after dark, stubborn, cold. The line was marked in the blood of wars. It's all in the first book of the first law.
For each and every corporeal world.
Right back like I left something. It's your hostess with the most. Is holding that fire like a roach clip. Your naga, your nerve, fresh up off of that curve. Jelly jam and preserve, Cosmonian, right back at it. Hey, this is Jehovah Chronicles number 299. War. What is it good for? Right? I ain't going to do a lot of talking in this one. Right? I just want to get right to it. This is the book of judgment. This is how your creator sees war. Right? This is book of judgment, 32 and 13. Judgment is rendered against every nation and all people in the world who carry on war or who are accessory to war, in which any man created alive by the Creator is slain in defense of any king or other ruler, or in defense of any country, U.S., Israel, Iran, Ukraine, or in defense of any country or government in the world. Judgment is rendered against you. Judgment is rendered against any nation and all people in the world who carry on war or who are accessory to war, in which any man created alive by Yahweh is slain in defense of any king or other ruler, or in defense of any country or government in the world. You're already guilty. And whether any war is offensive or defensive, United States, it's trumped up patriotism. And whether any war is offensive or defensive, my judgment is against its aiders and abettors, and against the kings and queens or other rulers who are parties to war, willingly, knowingly, or otherwise. But it don't stop there. Look what he say. And I judge him guilty also, who is general, commodore, captain, sergeant, the private, the guy who cooked the food, the quartermaster, the guy who cleaned the bathrooms. I judge them all guilty that engages in war or takes part in it, aiding, abetting, or otherwise. So it don't matter if you went out there and actually pulled the trigger and killed a little child somewhere in another country, or you're the person who cooked the food, who gave the person the energy to go out there and kill the child. You're all engaging and abetting and aiding in war, and you might as well just as much pull the trigger as anybody else. I'm sorry to my brothers who and all my loved ones who've been duped into these wars by the United States, ultimately pushed by the false deities of this world. Right? I'm sorry, but these are the ramifications and the outcomes of war. There isn't just a physical destruction. There's also a mental and spiritual destruction, right? And in real time, it looks like PTSD. I judge him guilty also, who is general, the commodore, the captain, the sergeant, or private that engages in war or takes part in it, aiding, abetting, or otherwise, in which any man created alive by Yahweh is slain or caused to suffer death. We're just going to get to it real quick. I'm going to share it. I ain't got too much to say. We just going to let these play, and we out of here. War. What is it good for? This is Jehovah Chronicles number 299, man. Y'all thumb up the video, share the live.
While most of America was asleep, the United States went to war. On February 28, 2026, the United States and Israel launched a massive joint military strike on Iran. They called it Epic Fury. Within hours, Iran's supreme leader, the most powerful man in the country, was dead. He was killed in an airstrike on his compound in Tehran. Iran fired back. Missiles hit United States military bases in Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia. 3 American soldiers were killed. 5 more were seriously wounded. Airports in Dubai were damaged. Hotels were struck. The Strait of Hormuz, where 20% of the world's oil flows, is now under threat of being shut down. And this is only day 2. But here is what the news will not tell you. Every single time America goes to war, there is a group of people who carry the heaviest burden, make the greatest sacrifice, and receive the least in return. And if you do not know who that group is by now, you have not been paying attention.
That's the sound of an American oil company hard at work. Want to be a part of it? Listen up.
Hello.
Before we go any further, subscribe to Black Journals now. Content like this gets suppressed. Subscribing is the only way to make sure. Let's lay out what happened, because the media is already spinning this in 6 different directions, and you deserve the raw truth. For months, tensions between the United States and Iran had been building. Massive protests broke out across Iran in late 2025. The Iranian people, crushed by economic collapse, a currency in freefall, and rising prices on everything, took to the streets in what became the largest demonstration since the 1979 revolution. Over 100 cities and millions of people demanding change. The Iranian government responded with extreme violence. Thousands of protesters were killed. Tens of thousands were detained, and the world watched. President Trump publicly encouraged the protesters. He told them to keep going. He told them help was on the way. Behind the scenes, the United States began the largest military buildup in the Middle East since the 2003 invasion of Iraq. Aircraft carriers, destroyers, submarines, and fighter jets were all moving into position. Now, here is the part that should concern every thinking person. While this military buildup was happening, the United States and Iran were still at the negotiating table. Indirect talks were taking place in Oman. Iran was reportedly making concessions. A second round of talks was scheduled for Geneva. Diplomacy was still alive. And then, without congressional authorization, without a vote, without public debate, the bombs started falling. Tehran, Isfahan, Qom, multiple cities were hit simultaneously. Iran's supreme leader was killed in the opening strikes. 40 senior Iranian officials were reportedly killed alongside him. Iran's response was immediate and unprecedented. They launched missiles at US bases across the entire Middle East. They struck targets in Israel. They hit civilian infrastructure in Dubai and Kuwait. They threatened to shut down one of the most critical oil passages on Earth. They declared 40 days of mourning, which in that part of the world is not just grief, it is a countdown. 3 American soldiers are dead, and this war is just getting started. Now, let's talk about the part no one on the news is willing to say out loud. There is a fact about the American military that gets buried every single time this country beats the drums of war. And that fact is this. Black Americans are vastly overrepresented in the United States Armed Forces. Black people make up roughly 14% of the American population. But in the United States Army, the branch most likely to see ground combat, Black Americans accounted for nearly 25% of all new recruits in 2024, 1 out of every 4. In the overall active duty force, Black service members make up roughly 17%. That's higher than our share of the population, and when you look at enlisted ranks, the soldiers on the ground, the ones in the line of fire, the numbers are even more disproportionate. This didn't happen by accident. For generations, the military has been one of the few institutions in America that offered black men and women a path, a paycheck, job training, healthcare, education benefits, and a sense of purpose in a country that routinely denies all of those things in civilian life. When the factories closed, when the schools failed, when the neighborhoods were gutted by policy, the recruiter was always there. And now, those recruits are stationed across the Middle East, in Kuwait, where 3 soldiers just died, in Bahrain, in Qatar, in bases that Iran has already hit and has promised to hit again. Let that sit for a moment. But this is not new. This is a pattern so old it is woven into the fabric of this country. And if you have been watching this channel, you already know the history. In the Revolutionary War, black men fought for America's independence and were returned to chains when the fighting stopped. In the Civil War, nearly 200,000 black soldiers fought to end slavery and were handed Jim Crow instead of freedom. In World War I, black soldiers fought for democracy in Europe and came home to race riots, lynchings, and the Red Summer of 1919. In World War II, this channel covered this in depth. Over 1 million black Americans served. They fought fascism abroad while being subjected to segregation in their own ranks. They came home heroes in Europe and second-class citizens in Mississippi. If you have not seen our video on the untold experiences of black soldiers in World War II, go watch it after this. Nearly 1 million people have, because that history was deliberately hidden, and it is more relevant today than ever. In Vietnam, black soldiers made up 11% of the population but suffered a disproportionate share of combat deaths in the early years of the war. Muhammad Ali, one of the greatest athletes to ever live, refused to go. He said something that still echoes today. He questioned why he should travel 10,000 miles to fight people who had never done anything to him, while the people oppressing him were right here at home. They stripped him of his title. They tried to break him, but history proved him right. In Iraq, black soldiers served in the most dangerous forward units. They came home to a country that would soon plunge them into the foreclosure crisis, defund their schools, and expand the prison system that would swallow their brothers and sons. And now, Iran, the names of those 3 dead soldiers have not been widely released yet, I promise you this. When they are, the pattern will hold. It always does, because the communities that have the fewest options are always the ones that fill the most body bags. Like this video, if you hear what I'm saying. And drop a comment, because I want to know what you think about black soldiers being asked to fight another war in the Middle East while our communities are crumbling at home.
We have got to the point where literally anybody can build a fully working app without knowing how to code. This is based.
Now let's talk about what this war is about to do to your wallet, because wars aren't just fought with missiles, they are fought with your money. Iran has threatened to close the Strait of Hormuz. If that happens, and military analysts say Iran has the capability to at least disrupt traffic, you're looking at a global oil crisis. Roughly 1/5 of the world's petroleum passes through that narrow waterway. When oil supply gets disrupted, gas prices don't just rise, they explode. And when gas prices spike, everything else follows. Transportation costs go up, food prices go up, the cost of every single product that moves by truck, which is almost everything you buy, goes up. This is called an inflation shock, and we already lived through one. From 2022 to 2024, black communities were hit hardest by inflation. Groceries, rent, utilities. The people with the least
We're going
cushion
through one
absorbed the
right
greatest
now, y'all.
blow. Now imagine that happening again, but worse. Because this time it is not supply chain disruptions from a pandemic. It is an active war in the most oil-sensitive region on Earth. And here is the part that should make you furious. The Iraq War cost the United States over $2 trillion. Some estimates put the total cost, including long-term veteran care and interest on the debt, at over $3 trillion. $3 trillion. Exposed in broad daylight, exposed by the fact that when it is time to fund a war, the money appears overnight. But when black communities ask for investment in schools, in infrastructure, in healthcare, in reparations, suddenly the vault is empty. Suddenly we are told there is no money. Suddenly we are told to be patient. They found trillions to rebuild Iraq. They never found a fraction of that to rebuild the south side of Chicago, or East St. Louis, or the Mississippi Delta, or Flint, or any of the hundreds of black communities that have been systematically drained of resources for generations. And now we are watching the same machine gear up again. Military budgets are expanding. Domestic budgets are shrinking. Education funding is on the chopping block. Social programs are being gutted. DEI programs are being dismantled. And black soldiers are being sent overseas disproportionately, while the communities they left behind get nothing. This is not a coincidence. This is how the machine works. It always has. The leaders we cover on this channel, the ones they tried to silence, the ones they surveilled, the ones they assassinated, saw this coming. Every single one of them. Malcolm X understood, more than perhaps anyone, the connection between American imperialism abroad and racial oppression at home. He spoke about it openly. He challenged black Americans to see themselves not as a minority in America, but as part of a global majority of non-white people being exploited by the same systems. He warned that the same government that bombs nations overseas is the same government that brutalizes its own people at home. That was the 1960s, and nothing has changed. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a man most people only know for one speech, gave perhaps his most important address in April of 1967. It was called Beyond Vietnam, and it almost destroyed him. In that speech, King called the United States government the greatest purveyor of violence in the world. He connected military spending to domestic poverty. He said you cannot spend hundreds of billions on war and claim you do not have the resources to address poverty, education, and inequality at home. The media turned on him. His allies distanced themselves, and less than a year later, he was dead. Minister Farrakhan has spoken for decades about the use of black soldiers as cannon fodder in wars that serve interests completely disconnected from the black community. He has challenged black men and women to ask a simple question: who benefits from these wars, and who pays the price? Muhammad Ali put his career, his freedom, and his legacy on the line to answer that question. He chose prison over participation in a war he believed had nothing to do with his people, and history vindicated him completely. These men were not just talking about Vietnam, they were talking about a system that has used black bodies as currency since 1619, whether in cotton fields, on factory floors, or on foreign battlefields. So here we are, March 2026. America is at war again, the missiles are flying, the body count is rising, and somewhere right now, on a military base in the Middle East, there are young black men and women in uniform, far from home, far from their families, far from the communities that need them, waiting for the next order. I am not here to tell you whether this war is right or wrong. There are people smarter than me debating that right now, and they cannot agree either. But I am here to tell you this: every time this country goes to war, black America pays a price that never gets calculated. We send more of our people, we lose more of our people, and when the fighting stops, we get forgotten. That is not opinion. That is a pattern documented by 250 years of American history. So while the news talks about missiles and regime change and oil prices, I need you to think about something deeper. I need you to ask the question that Malcolm asked, that King asked, that Ali asked: who benefits from this and who pays? Because the answer has not changed in centuries. Share this video with every black person you know. Subscribe to this channel. We are going to stay on this story because the mainstream media will not cover the angle that matters most to us. Hit the like button.
Now, I want to share this one also with you real quick, because for all those who don't know, we went into war with Iran, backing up Israel as America is backing up Israel as Israel's attack dog. You know what I mean? America is, in a sense, a proxy to its proxy. Right? And we against war on all sides, but also we not about turning our eyes against to what is, right? And one thing, before y'all get all hyped up about war, choosing a side, or You dig what I'm saying? What y'all really need to understand and know is, how do they see you? You dig what I'm talking about? How do Iranians treat the black folk that they around every day? Let alone the one. Don't let the Iranians gas you up like they just so for America either. You dig what I'm saying? How do they treat the black people around them before you jump on Iran side? Well, how does Israel treat the black people that's around them? Right? Before you choose a side, Cosmo here to give you all the information so you can make an informed decision about what's going on in the society around you. Let's cook.
Two. Half the people you know are cheering for Israel. The other half are defending Iran. Everybody has picked a side. Everybody has an opinion. But I have one question that neither side wants you to ask. How do they treat black people? Not in speeches, not in propaganda, not in what they say to the cameras. How do they actually treat black people who live in their countries, walk their streets, and exist under their laws? Because I went deep on both Iran and Israel. What I found should make every black person watching this rethink everything they have been told about this conflict. Because neither side, and I mean neither side, has clean hands. Before we go further, subscribe to this channel. This is part of our ongoing series covering the Iran war from the angle the mainstream media refuses to touch. Hit the bell so you do not miss a single video. And let's get into it. Let's start with Iran. And let's start with something that most people, including most Black Americans, have never heard. Iran has a Black population, not visitors, not tourists, not temporary workers. There are Afro-Iranians, Black people.
Now, lately, you've been hearing about the story in 1979 where American people got stuck over there in Iran, and the Iranian Shah, Ayatollah Khomeini, the guy who was there before this last guy who just got blew up, was in there. He let the black people go, right? That happened in 1979. My question is, why ain't you never heard that story before now? Huh? Ain't none of y'all knew that Iran kept all the white folk when the Americans got stuck over there. They kept all the white folks hostage and let all the niggas go. It was like 53 people or so, and 13 of them was like niggas, and they let all the niggas go. They said, we ain't got no problem with niggas. My question is, why ain't you never heard that story before Cosmon just told you? And now they trying to blast that around the internet to drum up sympathy for Iran. Huh? I'm just saying, ain't nobody hands clean, and we gonna expose it all. Remember, judgment is against every nation who aids, abets in war where any man is killed, offensively or defensively. Huh? We just read that.
People who have lived in Iran for centuries. They are concentrated primarily in the southern provinces along
That's
the
a good
Persian
question.
Gulf,
How
in
do they
cities like
treat
Bandar
niggas?
Abbas,
We're gonna go
Hormozgan,
back.
and in the regions
Watch
bordering the
this.
Gulf of
Hold on, we're
Oman.
gonna go back just a
Estimates
tad.
vary, but centuries. They are concentrated primarily.
Hold on, we're
Start
gonna
with
go back a
Iran.
tad.
And let's start with something that most people, including most Black Americans, have never heard. Iran has a Black population, not visitors, not tourists, not temporary workers. There are Afro-Iranians, Black people who have lived in Iran for centuries. They are concentrated primarily in the southern provinces along the Persian Gulf, in cities like Bandar Abbas, Hormozgan, and in the regions bordering the Gulf of Oman. Estimates vary, but researchers have placed the number anywhere from several hundred 150,000 to over 2 million people, depending on how you define the community and how far back you trace the lineage. And the origin of that community is slavery. The Persian slave trade, which overlapped heavily with the Arab slave trade, brought East African people to Iran over a period spanning more than 1,000 years. From the 7th century onward, enslaved Africans were transported from the coasts of what are now Kenya, Tanzania, Mozambique, Ethiopia, and Sudan into the Persian Gulf region. They were used as laborers, domestic servants, pearl divers, soldiers, and in agricultural work in some of the most brutal conditions imaginable. If you watched our video on the Arab slave trade, and over 150,000 of you did, you already know that this was one of the longest and least discussed slave trades in human history. It predated the transatlantic slave trade by centuries and continued well into the 20th century. Iran did not formally abolish slavery until 1929. Even after abolition, the social consequences never disappeared. Today, Afro-Iranians live in a state of invisibility. They are among the poorest communities in the country. They hold almost no political power. Their cultural traditions, rooted in African music, spiritual practices, and oral history, are marginalized. They are rarely represented in Iranian media, education, or public life. When researchers and journalists have attempted to document their existence, they have been met with resistance from Iranian authorities who would prefer the world did not know this community exists at all. The racism Afro-Iranians face is structural and deeply embedded. The Farsi language itself contains derogatory terms for Black people that are still in common use. Colorism is rampant across Iranian society, with darker skin being associated with poverty, low social status, and undesirability. Afro-Iranian women in particular face compounded discrimination, marginalized for their race, their gender, and their economic status simultaneously. And here is something that connects directly to the war happening right now. The southern provinces where most Afro-Iranians live are among the most neglected regions in the entire country. While Tehran poured resources into its military and nuclear programs, these communities were left without adequate schools, hospitals, infrastructure, and economic opportunity. The Iranian regime spent billions on missiles and proxy wars across the Middle East. Meanwhile, the descendants of enslaved Africans living within their own borders were treated as if they did not exist. Some Afro-Iranian activists have spoken publicly about this. The response from the regime was predictable: surveillance, intimidation, and silence. The protests that erupted across Iran in late 2025 and early 2026 included voices from these communities. And when the government began killing protesters, thousands of them, you can be certain that the lives in those southern provinces were not the ones Tehran was concerned about protecting. So that is Iran, a country with a Black population born from slavery, maintained in poverty, and erased from public consciousness. A country that has never acknowledged, apologized for, or made any attempt to repair the damage done to its Afro-descendant community. Now let's cross the border into Israel and buckle up, because this is where it gets even more disturbing. Israel markets itself to the world as the only democracy in the Middle East, a homeland for the Jewish people, a nation built on the promise of belonging. But if you are a Black Jew in Israel, that promise has a very different meaning. There are roughly 170,000 Ethiopian Jews living in Israel today, a community known as Beta Israel. Their connection to Judaism stretches back thousands of years. According to their own tradition, they descend from the tribe of Dan, one of the original 12 tribes of Israel. They maintained Jewish practice, ritual, and identity for centuries in isolation in the Ethiopian highlands, long before modern Israel existed. In the 1980s and the 1990s, Israel launched dramatic operations: Operation Moses, Operation Joshua, and Operation Solomon, to airlift Ethiopian Jews out of Ethiopia and Sudan. Thousands were brought to Israel in what was presented to the world as a heroic rescue, a Jewish state bringing its lost people home. But what happened
Remember,
after
this
they
they
arrived
own
tells a
people.
very different story.
This how they treat their
Ethiopian Jews were
own
placed in
people.
absorption centers that functioned
The
more like
real
holding
Jew.
facilities. They were subjected to a process of cultural erasure. Their religious practices, which had been maintained for millennia, were deemed insufficient.
Another interesting thing I want to bring up that's brought to light by the Book of Earth, Sky, and Spirit is this quote unquote hidden tribe of Dan, right? when we got a people today who are claiming this heritage and are called Beta Israel, these mistreated Ethiopian stocks of people. But what nobody ever tell nobody is that these Beta Israel, right, Sephardi's, you dig what I'm talking about, and all that, are in fact the tribe of Dan, right? Only through a WASPy is it realized or broken down that the word Dan means light. D-A-N means Dan. So when you see that and they try to say Dan is this dark tribe, when they always try to tie it to skin color or something like that. In actuality, Dan means light. So what they're saying is they are the people of light. Interesting. Just thought I would bring that up. But the more important part is these is niggas over there, right? And if they treating the niggas over there this way, what they really feel about you? Huh? That's the question we ask.
Ethiopian Jewish religious leaders were told their ordinations were not valid. Community members were required to undergo symbolic conversion rituals, essentially being told that their Judaism was not Jewish enough for Israel.
We'll pay you to get your CDL and give you a truck driving job with one of the nation's safest carriers.
One of the most disturbing scandals in modern Israeli history emerged in 2013 when it was acknowledged that Ethiopian Jewish women had been given long-acting birth control injections, in some cases without full informed consent. An Israeli investigative journalist exposed the practice. Health officials had been administering Depo-Provera shots to Ethiopian women at transit camps before they entered the country, and continuing the injections after arrival. The birth rate among Ethiopian Jews in Israel dropped by 50% over a decade. When the story broke, the Israeli Health Ministry issued a directive telling gynecologists to stop prescribing the contraceptive if there was any doubt that the women understood the treatment. Let that sink in. A nation that defines itself by the promise of never again was suppressing the birth rate of its Black Jewish population. It goes beyond reproductive rights. Ethiopian Jews in Israel face systemic discrimination in virtually every measurable category. They are disproportionately poor, they face higher unemployment, and their children are overrepresented in the lowest performing schools and underrepresented in universities. Housing discrimination pushes them into segregated neighborhoods. When Ethiopian and Israeli youth have taken to the streets to protest, which they have multiple times, most notably in 2015 and 2019, they have been met with tear gas, rubber bullets, and mass arrests. Police brutality against Ethiopian Israelis has become a defining issue for the community. Video after video has surfaced of Israeli police beating, arresting, and harassing Ethiopian Jewish citizens.
Some of the
In
video, shed a lie.
the shooting of an unarmed
Did y'all
Ethiopian
know
Israeli
this?
teenager by an off-duty police officer sparked nationwide protests. Thousands of Ethiopian Israelis took to the streets. They blocked highways.
Did y'all know in 2013 they were sterilizing the Beta Israelite women with Depo-Provera, and that it cut their population of Beta Israel or the Black Israelites over there or the Black Jews over there in half? Did y'all know that happened only 12 years ago? That's why I like WASPy, because WASPy tell you that them people still hate you today. It didn't say all of them, but it lets you know they still hate you today. This is 2013. This ain't 100 years ago. It's a decade ago. Huh? They were forced sterilizing people unwittingly. unknowingly, right? They in a sense wiped out 1/3 of a generation of people, period. And if you think they didn't know that, you just as goofy as they is evil.
And they demanded justice. The parallels to Black Lives Matter were impossible to ignore, and they were not lost on Black Americans watching from across the ocean. Then there are the African asylum seekers. Tens of thousands of migrants and refugees, primarily from Eritrea and Sudan, entered Israel through the Sinai Peninsula in the 2000s and early 2010s, fleeing war, dictatorship, and persecution. Israel's response was not compassion. The government built a massive detention facility in the Negev desert. Kenya, Tanzania, Mozambique, each center of the biggest military conflict in a generation, and neither of Israel is asking the world to support its cause. It pushes them into segregated neighborhoods.
My bad. What I wanted to, the sister asked, is he talking about Bill Gates? No, Bill Gates did it separately, and he did it to continental Africans. And he gave, not only sterilized some people, right? Right? This came out in a whistleblower, right? But he was also giving these people AIDS and Ebola and different diseases, virtually wiping people out, man. And this is with the World Health Organization and his overall idea that there's too many people on the planet, which is, it's ill. It's just a sickening thought. You dig what I'm talking about? That these people think they can cull and herd humans like animals. Bill Gates did it in a whole. No, I'm not saying Bill Gates didn't or did give them the shots, right? What I'm saying is Israel themselves ran their own program of sterilization and genocide on their own so-called people. Bill Gates and the World Health Organization ravaged the rest of Africa. Ain't no like what Spice One say, ain't no love trick. The trigger God's no heart.
When Ethiopian and Israeli youth have taken to the streets to protest, which they have multiple times, most notably in 2015 and 2019, they have been met with tear gas, rubber bullets, and mass arrests. Police brutality against Ethiopian Israelis has become a defining issue for the community. Video after video has surfaced of Israeli police beating, arresting, and harassing Ethiopian Jewish citizens. In 2019, the shooting of an unarmed Ethiopian Israeli teenager by an off-duty police officer sparked nationwide protests. Thousands of Ethiopian Israelis took to the streets. They blocked highways and they demanded justice. The parallels to Black Lives Matter were impossible to ignore, and they were not lost on Black Americans watching from across the ocean. Then there are the African asylum seekers. Tens of thousands of migrants and refugees, primarily from Eritrea and Sudan, entered Israel through the Sinai Peninsula in the 2000s and early 2010s, fleeing war, dictatorship, and persecution. Israel's response was not compassion. The government built a massive detention facility in the Negev desert. Senior Israeli politicians refer to African asylum seekers as infiltrators and as cancer. Legislation was passed to detain them indefinitely. Deportation campaigns were launched, pressuring Africans to leave for third countries in Africa with cash payments and threats of imprisonment. The message was unmistakable. Jewish or
What are you saying, Cosmo? Are you saying that we are Africans here in America? No. What I'm telling you is to them, your skin it makes you the same. The hate is the same. They don't even care about the differences. Right? They want to wipe you out all the same. So why I'm showing this is before you get an emotional attachment to, oh, the Americas is doing this, or Israel is doing this, or Iran is doing this. Huh? What I'm telling you is you are faithless and don't take no part in it. Because I'm telling you, ain't none of the sides got your best interests at heart. Ain't none of them niggas your friends. That's what I'm showing. Right? Ain't nobody gonna tell it to you. Cosmon gonna tell you.
Not, refugee or not. If you were black in Israel, you were a problem to be managed, not a person to be welcomed. And now, in the middle of this war, Israel is asking the world to support its cause. It is asking for solidarity. It is asking Black Americans, some of whom serve disproportionately in the U.S. military, which is currently fighting alongside Israel, to view this as a fight for democracy and freedom. But democracy for whom? Freedom for whom? If you are connecting these dots, hit that like button right now and drop a comment, because this is the conversation they do not want us having. So here we are, the two nations at the center of the biggest military conflict in a generation, and neither of them can look Black people in the eye with a clean conscience. Iran built a Black population through slavery and then pretended they don't exist. Israel rescued Black Jews from Africa and then treated them as second-class citizens in their own promised land. Iran silences its Afro-Iranian community through neglect and suppression. Israel polices its Ethiopian community through force and systemic exclusion. And both of them, right now today, are asking for your support, your sympathy, your sons and daughters in uniform. This is not about picking a side between Iran and Israel. This is about recognizing that Black people are not a priority for either side. We never have been. We are an afterthought in Iran's domestic policy and a problem to be managed in Israel's social hierarchy. Our history in both nations is one of exploitation, erasure, and control. And yet, Black Americans make up a disproportionate share of the U.S. military that is currently fighting in this conflict. Black tax dollars are funding this war. Black communities will bear the economic consequences of rising oil prices and inflation. And Black voices are being told by both sides to pick a team and cheer. The leaders we study on this channel saw through this decades ago. Malcolm X refused to align with any nation that didn't align with Black liberation. He viewed global conflicts through the lens of what they meant for Black people, not what they meant for empires. He would look at this war and ask one question: what's in it for us?
What's
and the
in
answer,
it for me?
as it has been for every war in American history, is nothing. I'm not here to tell you who's right and who's wrong in this war. Smarter people than me are arguing about that, and they can't figure it out either. But I am here to tell you this: before you wave a flag for either side, you deserve to know how that side treats people who look like you. Not what they say in press conferences, not what their diplomats tweet, how they treat Black bodies in their streets, in their hospitals, in their housing, in their courts, and in their history books. And now you know, Iran erased its Black population. Israel marginalized its Black citizens, and both of them are currently engaged in a war that Black American soldiers are fighting and dying in, while Black communities at home receive nothing in return. That's not opinion. That's documented history. That's data. That's the testimony of Afro-Iranians and Ethiopian Israelis who have been saying this for years while the world refused to listen. Now you've heard them. Share this video. Send it to everyone in your group chat. Send it to the person who's been arguing online about which side to support. Send it to anyone who thinks this war has nothing to do with Black people, because it has everything to do with us.
Now, remember, we already showed you, right, in Owaspy, that the Creator said judgment, right? Judgment is rendered against every nation and all people in the world who carry on war. Ain't that what this say? Book of Judgment 32:13. Judgment is rendered against every nation and all people in the world who carry on war. Remember that.
All right, guys, we've got yet another heavy hitter guest and first-time guest on the show. Professor Zhang, he is the star of the popular YouTube channel Predictive History. He uses game theory to analyze past, current, and to predict future geopolitical events. And he joins us now. Professor, great to have you.
Good to see you, sir. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, of course. So, for people who aren't familiar.
And we got the double benefit of a WASPy letting us know that prophecy is not guesswork. Absolute rules rule all things. Watch this, y'all. Because America, remember, the judgment is already rendered. You don't think these niggas at the top read a WASPy? This is why you ain't never heard of it. Too valuable to utterly destroy, too hidden and recopied and pushed on the low to utterly destroy, right? So you got to hide it. You got to demonize it, You got to take this American culture, right, and scatter it around the world and make it somebody else's so it's unrecognizable. So when the people actually hear their ancient culture, ethnicity, practices, played back to them or viewed back to them, even though something in the pit of their stomach hits them, the connection is never made. Because you think Kunta Kinte is from over in Africa when Kunta Kinte is a Choctaw name. Judgment is already rendered against you. What's the judgment? You gonna lose. Watch.
With your work, I wanted to show folks that back in 2024, you made 3 big predictions. 1, that Trump would win. 2, that he would start a war with Iran. And 3, that the U.S. would lose that war. Let's take a listen to that.
In this class this semester, I'm making 3 big predictions, right? First is that Trump will win in November. Second is that the United States will go to war against Iran. And the third big prediction is that the United States will lose this war, which will forever change the global order.
So obviously that last one is the only one that has not yet come to fruition. Is quite a stunning prediction. Do you stand by it? And what have you seen so far that leads you to sort of stand firm in that conclusion?
So given my analysis of how the war is progressing, I think that Iran has many more advantages over the United States. The reality is that right now, it's a war of attrition between the United States and Iran. And the Iranians have been preparing 20 years for this conflict. In their eschatology, in their religion, this is a war against the great Satan. They've had many practice runs. Last June was a 12-day war when the Iranians were able to examine and analyze the strike capacities of both the Israelis and the Americans. And they've had a lot of time, 8 months, to prepare fully for this new attack. They, through their proxies, the Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Shia militias, have been able to really grasp the American mentality. And now they have a pretty good strategy of how to weaken and ultimately destroy the American empire.
Hello, my name is Adam Ferrari, the Chief Executive Officer of Phoenix Energy.
Y'all better
I
listen.
look forward to you joining us at our next investor webinar.
So what?
Remember, this the same old war. This the same old Luamong versus Jabril. Today is now Mikael, a.k.a. Yeshua, a.k.a. Allah, versus Christ. Yeah, and the Christian church. Old Louis at it again. But watch, remember, prophecy is not guesswork. He been right on the other 2. Watch this.
The Iranians are doing is they're waging war against the entire global economy. And so they are striking the GCC countries. And not only are they striking GCC countries, American bases, they're going after the critical energy infrastructure of these bases. They blocked out the Strait of Hormuz, and eventually they will go after the water desalination plants, which is the lifeblood of these nations because they don't have fresh water supply. In fact, the water desalination plants provide 60% of the GCC's water supply. So if a drone, and these drones cost $50,000, if they wiped out a desalination plant in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and it's a city of 10 million people, right? They'd be out of water in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks. And right now, the Iranians have de facto closed off the Strait of Hormuz, and the GCC gets 90% of its food from the Strait of Hormuz. So I know a lot of people are talking about the disruptions to the global economy, but right now, the Iranians are actually threatening the very existence of Saudi Arabia, UAE, Bahrain, Qatar. And why this is important is that the Gulf states are really the linchpin of the American economy. So what they do is they sell petrodollars and then they recycle the petrodollars back into the American economy through the investments in the stock market. And right now, we know that the entire American economy is propped up by AI investments in data centers. And a lot of that comes from the Gulf states. So if the Gulf states are no longer able to sell oil, and they're no longer able to finance AI, this AI bubble in the United States, then this AI bubble will burst, and with it will burst as well the entire American economy, which is really a financial Ponzi scheme.
Right.
So that's a dire situation that the Americans are facing right now.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, sir, an Amazon data center was literally hit in the UAE. And now, of course, big tech companies, which were looking at the UAE as a major potential data center investment hub with cheap and abundant energy, probably going to be rethinking that. We also wanted to talk to you about munitions. We can put this next one up here on the screen. The United States is racing to accomplish Iran mission before munitions run out. This is specifically around interceptor math. There's a famous video just from yesterday in Israel, which shows a single Iranian ballistic missile, which is being targeted by some 11 different interceptors, all of which miss. Most of those come from the United States, not to mention all of the different bases, the GCC countries that you just talked about, and the asymmetry of the cost. It's $1 million for a missile, tens of millions per interceptor in some of these cases. With these munitions running out, how does that change the global picture? So you're in China, obviously, much of the stocks in Asia of the United States are likely to have to be cannibalized if this were to go on. How's that going to affect the global picture here?
Right. So my first point is that the United States military is not designed to fight a 21st century war. Remember, the military-industrial complex came to being after World War II, and it's designed to fight the Cold War. And the Cold War was really about muscle flexing, about who was able to send people up into space, who was the first to get the person on the moon, who had the more complex missile systems. And so the entire American military strategy revolves around very sophisticated technology that costs a lot of money to build, and that's what the American air defense system is basically, and that's why we're seeing this asymmetry, as you point out, in this war, where you have these $1 million missiles trying to take out these $50,000 drones, and it's not sustainable in the long term. And so what we're seeing is really the puncturing of the aura of invincibility and invisibility that sustained American hegemony for the past 20 years, especially after the collapse of the Soviet Union. And this is really a reordering of not just the global economy, because this signals the collapse of the petrodollar, and with it, the entire US dollar-based reserve currency system, but also the global hegemony of the United States. We're moving towards a multipolar world.
Professor, this morning, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth was asked a question about potential ground troops in Iran. He refused to rule out that possibility. And he said, oh, well, we're not going to project to you what we will or will not do, but we don't want to, rule anything out. We will do what it takes. Do you think that America will end up invading Iran from the ground, since it's already becoming relatively clear they won't be able to accomplish the goal of regime change or even regime collapse using just air power alone?
Right. So everyone says that the worst calamity that could happen in the United States is if it were to send ground troops into Iran. At the same time, the United States are committed to regime change in Iran. We never had a precedent in history where you were able to regime change from the air alone. You need ground troops. And so unfortunately, what's going to happen over the next few months is that pressure will build on America to send ground troops, especially from the GCC countries and from Israel, which are being pounded right now by the Iranians. So remember that if the GCC countries, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, Bahrain, if they go, then the petrodollar goes with them. So the Americans need to protect these countries, and these countries are going to demand that either the Americans bribe the Iranians to cease, and this is like $5 trillion in indemnity, okay? Or send ground troops to wipe out the Iranian threat once and for all. And I know that there's no political will for ground troops to be used against Iran among the American people. But remember that 78% of American people was against initial strikes against Iran in the first place.
Right. And one of the things that really comes into question, I think, with all of this, sir, when we're looking at the geopolitical picture and the sacrificing in much of this from the United States on behalf of Israel, is kind of a question as to who and what wanted this. We were actually curious for your view on a disputed report here from the Washington Post. We can put it up here on the screen, F3. A push from the Saudis. Israel helped move Trump to attack Iran. Now, this has been internally disputed by Saudi Arabia, saying that they did not push the Trump administration to attack Iran. However, this is clearly an authorized leak from our own government, trying to at least lay some of the blame on behalf of the GCC. What do you make of this analysis and of this narrative that Saudi Arabia was also trying to be behind this push to bomb Iran?
So I've always argued that both Saudi Arabia and Israel are heavily invested in regime change in Iran. Yeah. In fact, Saudi Arabia sees Iran as much more of an existential crisis than Israel. Because remember, Israel still has nuclear weapons, and Israel is a very diverse, very sophisticated economy, whereas Saudi Arabia is completely reliant on oil. And it's always had problems with Iran because Iran is a theocracy opposed to the Saudi monarchy. Iran funds and equips the Houthis, which have been antagonistic towards Saudi Arabia for the longest time. And right now, the Saudi economy is suffering. It's been trying to pivot towards more of a tourist economy. That's why they brought in Ronaldo. That's why they're switching to gaming. That's why they're building something called a line, NEOM. And all these things are not working out. So they need to be able to control the oil resources of the entire Middle East if they are to survive and thrive as a nation. So I do believe that this reporting is credible, even though it does make Saudi Arabia look bad. But remember, Saudi Arabia says that they wanted peace, but they are helping the Israelis and the Americans attack Iran right now because they're allowing the Israelis and Americans to use Saudi airspace.
So help us understand, because it still feels to me like there's some pieces that don't totally add up. You had, in advance of this war on Iran, you had top military brass up to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff saying, this is a really bad idea. We are not ready for this. All the math on the interceptors that's been talked about for months at this point. And yet Trump still decided to go ahead. What is the calculus that he was making here that led him to take what, already appears to be catastrophic actions?
Right. Okay. So this is the key question. Why do they do this? I think there are three possibilities. Okay. And I think all three possibilities are valid. The first is that of hubris. If you look at history, this is how empires behave. So the Mindoro kidnapping was quick, successful, and it was adrenaline rush for Trump. And that made him overconfident in the capacity of the American military. Okay, so hubris is a factor. And we see this throughout history. Why did Hitler invade Stalin? Because he conquered Europe really easily and he thought it was invincible, right? And that led to the destruction of the German army in the Soviet Union. So hubris is a factor. Then you have to look at internal political calculus, where even though America does not benefit from this war against Iran, Trump himself personally benefits. Why? Because the Saudis and the Israelis are bribing him to attack Iran. Remember that the Saudis invested $2 billion in the private equity fund of Jared Kushner, who is the son-in-law of Donald Trump. And the Israelis, through Miriam Adelson, have been financing Trump's political career, right? So Miriam Adelson, a few months back, said that she will put up $250 million if Trump were to run a third term. So Trump is getting a lot of financial and political support from the Saudis and Israelis. Also remember that if this war goes sideways and Trump is forced to use ground troops, he will probably get approval from Congress, and this will give him emergency war powers, which will allow him to influence the midterms. So Trump is thinking about a third term. And I think at the ballot box, he probably won't get it. But if there's a war going on and you can delay elections and you have emergency war powers and people rally around the flag, then he probably will get a third term. And the last factor that is very important is the eschatological factor, where if you look at the Epstein files, it's clear that we are run by secret societies. It's clear that the world is run by these individuals who have a lot of power. We don't know who they are, but they control the military. They control the national security apparatus. And these people, there are different names for these people. You can call them Illuminati. And the Illuminati are composed of three major groups. Okay, you have the Jesuits, who control the Vatican. You have the Septine Frankists, which control the modern state of Israel today. And you have the Freemasons, which control the national security apparatus of the United States. Security apparatus. And these people, there are different names for these people. You can call them Illuminati. And the Illuminati are composed of three major groups. Okay, you have the Jesuits, who control the Vatican. You have the Septine Frankists, which control the modern state of Israel today. And you have the Freemasons, which control the national security apparatus of the United States. And they believe that Israel, this war in the Middle East, is key to the end times in creating heaven on earth. So it's almost like a script that they're following, even though it doesn't make any geopolitical sense. Okay, so I would say that these three are the best reasons why this is happening.
Wow. Well, sir, I hope you come back. This was very informative, I think, for both of us. We deeply appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like
The Jesuit arm. Let's run that back one more time. I want to see what he said.
Power. We don't know who they are, but they control the military. They control the national security apparatus. And these people, there are different names for these people. You can call them Illuminati. And the Illuminati are composed of three major groups. Okay, you have the Jesuits, who control the Vatican. You have the Septine Frankists, which control the modern state of Israel today. And you have the Freemasons, which control the national security apparatus of the United States. And they believe that Israel, this war in the Middle East, is key to the end times in creating heaven on earth. So it's almost like a script that they're following, even though it doesn't make any geopolitical sense. Okay, so I would say that these three are the best reasons why this is happening.
Wow. Well, sir, I hope you come back. This was very informative.
Interesting. They said the Francos is running Israel today. And the Freemasonic Order is running the American security, national security arm of the United States. Hold on one second. Right. I want to play one more thing for you. Right. I want to play one more thing for you. I'm going to tell you, like, anybody else who got some common sense, who ever been in these streets, when it ain't got nothing to do with you, stay out of it and mind your business. And this is some overall gain to to anybody who feel they are a Black American, a real one, a follower of the Creator, Israel, just good Black people in general. You ain't got to believe in no Creator. You ain't got to do nothing. Just be good. If you one of the good ones, right, and you at least have enough common sense to know that war is not good on any front, right? One thing you should know, and take it from a real one, been out there, done that, got a t-shirt. You dig what I'm saying? When it ain't got nothing to do with you, mind your business. And that's word from the wise, from the OG, man. To all my Black folk out there and all good folk out there, stay up out of this. Mind your business. You dig what I'm saying? The government gonna do what the government gonna do.
I'm Bevan. Eddie Griffin and Black people are now responding and sharing what some people are thinking after news broke of the U.S. bombing in Iran. While headlines flash, red alerts, and politicians talk about retaliation and strategy, in living rooms, barbershops, and timelines across America, the reaction is far less patriotic and far more personal. For many, it's not about foreign policy. It's about priorities. It's about schools, underfunded, neighborhoods over police, inflation rising, and veterans still untreated. There's been a long history on the conflict between the United States and Iran. But on February 28th, the United States and Israel would bomb the country of Iran, with Trump accusing Iran of having nuclear bombs that threaten allies and can even reach the U.S. The attack would end up killing Iran's supreme leader on Saturday, which for many would increase a worry of retaliation by Iran. In response, Iran would fire missiles at Israel and U.S. bases across the region in the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, and Jordan. Images would shake up people back in the U.S. and even left some stranded in those mentioned regions due to airports being shut down because of the conflict. During a new episode of his show, NNN, Eddie Griffin will call out the United States for its contradictions of being a Christian country and even using its citizens to fight a war unrelated to them.
President Trump says he's May the 17th, I believe the date is, that his country is going to rededicate itself to God. One nation under God, because we're such godly people. That's why we just stole a man and his wife from Venezuela, the president. And the news ain't covered nothing. Where's this man and his wife at now? See, y'all just use them distraction stories and then they just disappear from the news feed. I thought the 10 Commandments said, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not kill. Now you're ready to send our children over to Iran to kill some more motherfuckers ain't did shit to us. Go on and dedicate this nation to God, because God ain't with y'all. Y'all must be talking about the God down below, the motherfucker y'all praying to.
For some Black Americans, foreign policy feels distant from daily survival. The wars change names, the headlines change countries, but the pattern feels familiar. From Vietnam to Iraq, Black Americans have consistently served on the front lines of wars framed as fights for democracy abroad, while still battling inequity at home. During the Vietnam War, civil rights leaders openly questioned why young Black men were being drafted to defend freedoms overseas that they themselves did not fully experience in America. Decades later, the Iraq War followed a similar pattern. Black service members disproportionately represented in combat roles, yet returning to communities struggling with underfunded schools, limited healthcare access, and economic instability. Many people are coming to social media expressing their feelings of wanting to be viewed separately in response to the war. In relation to how Black and brown people are treated unfairly in the States, but are asked to fight for the country, news correspondent Joy Ann Reid would end up sharing a moment over a young Latino soldier telling his family bye before shipping off to fight. As far as some Black Americans, they would make sure that it was known that Black America did not see itself a part of this new conflict.
Hey, Iran. First and foremost, assalamu alaikum. Happy Ramadan. Yes, you want to get my formalities out the way. That ain't got nothing to do with us. You know, I'm just here to speak on behalf of my people. We ain't never had an issue with y'all. My name is actually Arabic. If you knew anything about niggas, we really do admire the Muslim community. Have y'all ever?
she kind of got a point. We ain't got no issue with y'all. We don't hate Iranians. We actually, for the most part, I would say most niggas in America have never even met an Iranian. I'm gonna go out on the limb and say 95% of niggas have never met an Iranian ever to even have any type of negative ideology about you. And even though, you know, they show us the negative about you on the news all the damn time, and, you know, they hate Muslims over here. Well, many of us are Muslims too. So we get it. You dig what I'm talking about? We understand the politics. So, you know, we was getting that stick way before y'all was. So we ain't got a dog in that fight. In that sense, you dig what I'm talking about? And that's what the sisters is saying. Look, you know, this ain't on us. You dig what I'm talking about? Just being real.
Heard of Malcolm X? Y'all would have loved him. Y'all have our permission.
Quick question. How do we make the Iran people know that it's just him? You don't have nothing to do with that, mama. Everybody in Iran, please tell your leaders, girl, it was him. It was just Donald.
Over on X, one user would even say, "Dear Iran, we don't have smoke with you. We cool." Signed, the Blacks of America. Black people's treatment is not lost on Iran. The country once tried to throw support behind Black Americans' contempt.
See, we ain't got no problem with Iran. Sign the black people in America. Dog, that's not us, man. You dig what I'm saying? That ain't us, homie.
Police brutality after George Floyd's murder and saying U.S. treatment of Black people was so concerning it deserved sanctions of its own. Tehran's officials publicly criticized how Black people were treated by U.S. police and vowed to target what they call systematic racism in America with punitive measures, using Floyd's death as justification. As one user on TikTok would mention, Iran in the past has been clear with sharing that they empathize with Black Americans in the States. In 1979, when 66 Americans were held hostage at the embassy of the United States in Tehran by Iran's then new leadership, they would end up releasing all of the African American hostages to show solidarity with the world's oppressed and marginalized people. Iran would even go on to put Malcolm X on a postage stamp.
I just remember, I'm old enough to remember, during the Iranian hostage crisis, as we called it here in this country, when the U.S. Embassy fell to the revolution there and American hostages were taken. What most Americans remember.
Now, I want y'all to notice, pay attention. You ain't never heard of this before, ever. Ever, ever, ever. Ever, ever, ever. Until now, Israel needs to drum up some support. You dig what I'm talking about from the American people to, you dig what I'm talking about, stop this war. And I ain't gonna lie. I'm in for stopping the war, period. But I ain't on nobody's side in this. I ain't aiding, I ain't abetting. And you dig what I'm talking about? I'm against war, period. You dig what I'm talking about? It's easy over on this side. You dig what I'm talking about? It's easy being a faith. It's hard being a faithist. But when it comes to stuff like this, man, I ain't got nothing to do with that. And you don't neither. That's the whole point. And they trying to funny. You ain't never heard of this what was happening in the Iran thing in 1979. You ain't never heard of that. You dig what I'm saying? Now they bringing it out over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Oh, we love you niggas. Allahu Akbar. Get over here, Akata. And what's the other? No, Abed. That's what they call you. Abed. Means slaves. It's like nigga. You dig what I'm talking about? Oh, Abed. So don't get it. Don't let the smooth don't let that smooth taste fool you, right? To act like these niggas is all your homeboys and all that. And that's why I played the prior video to show you how they really feel about you in the streets today, right? So you're not all emotionally, oh my God, they love niggas. No, they don't. No, they don't. Well, I'm gonna back it up. Watch this, because he gonna try to push the fact that they love niggas while they marginalizing, genociding and bombing them niggas. They own people in their own country, huh? Enslaving them. And a lot of them got there because of enslavement. Crazy.
Crisis, as we called it here in this country, when the U.S. Embassy fell to the revolution there and American hostages were taken. What most Americans remember is that the hostages were held for 300 something days. First, there was an attempt to get them out and that failed. And eventually they were released. But that's not what this video is about. You know what this video is about? When they had those hostages, the Iranians said, we're going to let the black people go. Now that there's another little battle going on between this government and the Iranians and the revolution there and the battles we're having here, all I'm saying is, if y'all decide to do something, just remember, just like y'all let us go last time, leave us out of this mess.
So you've got Iran pointing at American racial injustice and Black Americans reacting to war with, that ain't got nothing to do with us. It's almost like, see, Iran, we don't want any smoke and we have something in common. But that doesn't mean either side actually sees eye to eye. It just shows how far U.S. domestic issues echo abroad and shape global narratives. You see, when the U.S. bombs Iran, the expectation is unity. But for many Black Americans, the response is different. We don't want any smoke. We didn't vote for this. And to some, this feels like another unnecessary war. History plays a role in that reaction. Black Americans have fought in every major U.S. conflict from Vietnam to Iraq, often in disproportionate numbers. Yet the battles at home, voting rights, police reform, still feeling very much so unresolved. So when wars move faster than justice, skepticism follows. And here's the irony. After George Floyd's murder in 2020, Iranian officials publicly criticized the U.S. over its treatment of Black Americans, amplifying "I can't breathe" on the global stage. Whether that was solidarity or strategy, it's debatable, but it happened. So when some of us say that ain't got nothing to do with us, it may sound dismissive, but for many, it's fatigue, it's distance. It's a community wary of being pulled into another conflict while still fighting battles at home. And that tension, that's the real story. For High Plus News, I'm Bevan.
And with that being said, I think we just gonna get into a little bit of this about this war, and we out of here, right? Book of Judgment, right? If your boy cooking, man, hit me with some fire emojis in the chat. You dig what I'm talking about? If you like this soul cooking on the faith's position in war, and what our people's position as a good nigga folk in America, right? And the creator's position, which is our position in the Americas, and how you should look at it. You dig what I'm talking about? And the overall highest ideal and wisdom that's coming from the people is this ain't got nothing to do with us, Iran. Right? Leave black folks out of it. We ain't started. We ain't trying to finish it. Funny. That's the same stance the creator is taking. Watch this. Hold on one second. Hold on, y'all. My bad, family. We're going to go ahead and cook, and we're going to go ahead and get up out of here. This is the book of Judgment, 32 and 22. Chapter 32, verse 22, man. Let's take a look at it. About war, right? And this is the bondage I put on all those who do not obey my judgments and conform to them. They shall not rise above the first resurrection in heaven, while war remains upon the earth. So all the people who have fought in wars, right, till war stop, you still bound here. And look, even though their bondage is 100 years or 1,000 years, yet this, my judgment against them, shall not be put aside. You don't get away with it just because you died. Neither shall any king nor queen nor any other ruler in the entire world impress as a soldier any man who is unwilling to engage in war. And whoever does not obey this, right? They're talking about conscription and the drafts and all that stuff. Anybody who try to pull that, right? It says, whoever does not obey this, my judgment, shall not rise above the first resurrection in heaven while war remains upon the earth. The first resurrection is, for the most part, right here on earth. Right here. Grade 1 and below is right here on the earth. Nor, listen, because this ain't all, right? Nor will I consider the prayers of any king, Nicholas, Queen Elizabeth, or any other ruler, Trumpavarius, or any nation, America, Israel, or any people anywhere in the world who engage in war, offensive or defensive. You can't get away with it, Israel. Or anybody who aid or abet. Abet mean go along with it in any way. If I give you some oil to run your cars with, if I make bullets for you, if I make shoes that the soldiers go out and kill people in, I'm part of it. If I'm funding the American war machine in any way, I'm part of it. I will no longer consider the prayers of any king, queen, or any other ruler, or any nation, or people anywhere in the world who engage in war. I don't even hear y'all prayers. Who engage in war, offensive or defensive, or who aid and abet in war in any way whatsoever. I will abandon all such people. Man, right? What would, and thank the creator, y'all better hope this never happened. Y'all better hope Owash be wrong. It be right about everything else. But you better hope this is wrong and that we can change this. Right? Because we can. Right? Because if he pull his high-raised angels from the protection of the Americas, man, we gonna go in there. Anarchy. Instantly. I'm talking about war right here in America. You don't want this. You don't want the high-raised angels and all them to just be like, man, nothing I could do. Turn my back on them. You dig what I'm talking about? You don't want to do that. You don't want that type of smoke. because nature in and of itself, life in and of itself will eat you alive. Huh? This planet will consume you. Let me ask you a question. Where are the Etruscans? Where are the old Merowites? The ancient Sumerians? This world will make you extinct. It will chop you up and spit you out. Soon as created doesn't have any use for you. So what you don't want is for his lords to abandon the people. It's what's keeping America afloat. Primarily at the top, the people are crooked. Evil, I would even say, in many senses. Especially since we got to read some of Epstein's files. I would say, for the most part, the top is totally evil and corrupt. Creator say, I will abandon all such people, and my lords shall abandon them, and my holy angels shall abandon them. And they shall be left, listen, and they shall be left as prey to their own harvest of evil spirits. So what do these high-raised angels do? Protect you from you. Ooh-wee. And they shall be left as prey to their own. This don't come from nowhere else. Your own harvest of evil spirits, and to all manner of druges. These are low demonic entities. And they shall be afflicted with what? Assassinations? Any assassinations lately? Intriguers. Any great intrigues in the world going on lately? What about a despoiler? Let's look that word up, right? Let's look it up and see what the word despoiler is, and we can see if there are any countries and peoples, nation groups who are despoilers. Let me show you what a despoiler is. What is a despoiler? Definition of despoiler is a noun. It is someone who takes spoils or plunder, as in war, right? Synonyms: a freebooter, a looter, a pillager, a plunderer, a raider, a spoiler. Anybody ever heard of Venezuela? Despoilers, someone who takes spoils or plunders in war. Okay. Right? So we see we got massive despoilers at the top of our government. Right? This is how you know the angels are leaving. Right? You better hope this don't all the way happen, because we starting to see this in America. Right? This is a symptom of being left prey to our own evil spirits, is that In this place, you will be afflicted of assassination, intriguers, despoilers, and with anarchy. Uh-oh. This the part we ain't here. We at this part. We see these symptoms of the sickness, assassinations, intriguers, and despoilers. What about this? Huh? And with anarchy, riots, and destruction. This is where you don't want to be in America. You don't want to be like the people in Iran at the end of 2025 we was just learning about, right? Right? For they shall be made to understand that whomever the Creator created alive is sacred upon the earth. Not in the little country where you at, and you dig what I'm talking about, the little province, little town, in your house, right? Whoever Creator created alive is sacred upon the earth, and that whoever does not heed these, my judgment, sins against the Almighty. Behold, it is a not, listen, it is not sufficient apology for them to say, oh, an evil king, a despotic ruler will come upon my country and possess it. Huh? I say to you, old man, listen, all countries are the creators. Be his servant for peace and righteousness, having faith in him, not the governments of man. Huh? Look what your bro, true God, has come to do. Behold, your God has come to put away old things. Huh? And to give to you the kingdoms of the Creator as they are in his exalted heavens. Heed these judgments of your God. You cannot stop the hand of the Almighty. I don't think it's too much more to say. This is Jehovah Chronicles, huh? Your hostess with the mostest, Cosmonian, Cloud Kicker, Nakwakaiki. All praise to the ever-present Gichi, huh? And one time you will also be Manito, or God. Aboriginal man of America, Hawaspi says you have a great destiny, huh? In shaping the people that will go on to dominate, huh? The rest of the Cosmon era and for all time. They say you will birth the children who will go on to birth the children that will be a glory. Huh? Nothing like it ever been seen on the planet. Heed the judgments of your God. God is telling you that the Creator, the hand of the Almighty, can't be stopped. God praises the Almighty too. Man, it's a different type of revelation. We ain't saying the same thing. Huh? All praise to the ever-present Creator. Huh? Y'all know what I need you to do. You already know.
Creator can't coming, Creator can't coming. Turning up the light and watching boys start running. Let me tell you something, we ain't out here doing nothing. I can tell you scared, boy, niggas stop fronting. It was all in the plan.
Create a gang is crazy. Boy, y'all better pay attention.
Salute to the 4 horsemen, man. Malachi Maccabee, Daryl Cosma. The one who brought the light, man. You dig what I'm talking about? The nigga who led us out. In a sense, he came in the same vein. Not as Zarathustra, but as Abram. Shout out to the bruh. Sila Shalom, huh? And yours truly, Anakwakaiki, the cloud kicker. You dig what I'm saying? Y'all know what I need you to do.
We fight as a single, impenetrable unit. That is the source of our strength.
Peace to the gang, man. All the gods and Nirvanian goddesses. You know what I need you to do. Huh? Put it in the chat, man. Hit me with them vortexes. Breathe in. Huh? Let that light in. Because I'm Cosma and I'm out.
Jehovah, symmetry sung, heard his word, and the world begun. Motion one, devotion sprung, Jehovah reigns for the chosen, the only one. The book of Jehovah, symmetry sung, heard his word, and the world begun. Motion one, devotion sprung, Jehovah reigns for the chosen, the only one.
Before the earth took shape, new sound of sight, the creator sliced the time in the day and night. He breathed through void till the ether stirred, then sent angels and prophets to teach his word. Motion, notion, devotion aligned, encoded design in the spine of time. Wind wrote signs on the breath of the prime, S intertwined with the flesh of the line. Quicken the killer, conceiver entwined, dual divine, the ether confined. Two entities birthed, corporate S, life compressed in the vortex nest. Spirit in the mist, physics resist. Matter persist in Jehovah's fist. Dust kiss flame, play became twist. Anatomy gift from the infinite list. Male and female named through air. EOE, that sacred blare, not beast, not star. Not anywhere but the whisper of wind as a builder's prayer. Vortex speak, the sequence hum, the life resume. From void to bloom, the ether groom, creation's womb. Every tune in the flames plume, a living rune. If your soul need food, here's what you consume.
The book of Jehovah, symmetry sung, heard his word and the world begun. Motion one, devotion sprung, Jehovah reigns for the chosen, the only one. The book of Jehovah, symmetry sung, heard his word and the world begun. Motion one, devotion sprung, Jehovah reigns for the chosen, the only one.
3 states of worlds are made, corporeal terrain, an atmosphere and chain to Etherian planes. Ether the pure, obscure domain. The ghost of light, free the soul from shame. Atmosphere, field and flow. AGA, nebula glow. Currents collide where the comets go. Gravity bend with the vortices, so sound became law. Law gave sight, and every soul aligned in Jehovah's light. His love gave reason, and the heart retune. If your body need rest, here's the text to consume.
The book of Jehovah, symmetry sung, heard his word, and the world begun. Motion one, devotion sprung, Jehovah reigns for the chosen, the only one. The book of Jehovah, symmetry sung, heard his word, and the world begun. Motion one, devotion sprung, Jehovah reigns for the chosen, the only one.
Before the clay inhaled the spark, the plan was grand. See moose spun pulse through the dust of man. Ether expand to where the blueprint ran. Spirit tied to flesh by Jehovah's hand. Angels descended, intelligent warm. Walk with Azu where the light was born. Heaven breathed with immortal form. Lord met love and the veil was torn. A seed took root in the coil's perfume.
Since evolved under the sun and the moon, time broke the sleep of a deep commune. And now man learns pattern from teeth to spoon, from breath to balance. The Most High drop clues from speech and sequence. The spirit world moved from page to prophecy through mahogany hues. If your mind need peace, here's the key to consume. The book of Jehovah, symmetry sung. Heard his word and the world begun. Motion one, devotion sprung. Jehovih reigns for the chosen, the only one. The book of Jehovah.